Hi there, welcome back to the I Heart Mess YouTube channel, your monthly roundup of the best of the worst celebrity fashion. I'm Emily Kirkpatrick, a professional fashion writer and a dilettante in fine dressing. Today we've got a special edition of our usual content. We're going to be taking a look at my most and least favorite outfits from the 2025 Met Gala, or as I like to call it, the Mess Gala. The theme of the Costume Institute's spring exhibition this year is superfine, tailoring black style. It's based on Monica L. Miller's 2009 book, Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism, and the styling of the Black diasporic identity. The theme of the Met Gala's red carpet was an intentionally broader, more generic interpretation of the exhibit, which Vogue defined as tailored for you. This is also the first time in over 20 years that the Met has had an exhibit focused entirely on menswear. We'll be discussing exactly where the concept of the Black dandy comes from a little later on in this video, but I thought it would be helpful to start with the criteria by which we will be evaluating the gala's attire. The hallmarks of a Black dandy are bespoke tailoring, of course, bold colors and patterns, accessories with both flair and utility, and a fusion of cultural and historical influences. Personally, I was also looking for clear displays of big personality. And according to Miller herself, dandyism is not just about the fashion, but also a deployment of gesture and wit, a theme that you'll see emerge repeatedly throughout these outfits. Okay, and with that, these dandies aren't going to judge themselves, so let's get into it. To begin with, I want to highlight some of the not-so-subtle integrated ads that took place on fashion's biggest night. And I'm not even talking about the way every other celebrity Vogue interviewed on the red carpet effusively plugged and praised eBay, one of the sponsors of the night. One of Vogue's red carpet interviewers, SNL's Ego Woodim, showed off an evening clutch on her Instagram made in collaboration with Panera and designed to look like a croissant. This was easily my favorite plug of the night, a bizarre high fashion gambit by a fast food chain predominantly known for serving soups in bowls carved from loaves of bread. And to make matters just a little more confusing, yes, that does appear to be a grilled cheese Ego is either removing from or concealing within said carb satchel. These types of food brand fashion integrations still aren't being executed quite at the absurd level of luxury I'd like them to be, but I do think we're starting to move in the right direction with this. Although for an event that requires all-night energy, I would have loved to see Panera hook Ego up with an IV of that killer caffeine-charged lemonade they've been slinging as well. But that's hardly the only pay-for-play that transpired at the gala. Dame Idris almost had me fooled. If you've seen the clip I shared from the live stream of this red carpet, I was suspicious from the moment this young man hopped out of a race car and set foot in his bedazzled driving helmet and jumpsuit upon this red carpet that what I was witnessing was somehow promotional. And it turns out my suspicions were correct. This was SponCon on a level I couldn't have even fathomed at the time. You see, Louis Vuitton is the main sponsor of F1 racing. Louis Vuitton was also the main sponsor of this year's Met Gala, hence why Lewis Hamilton was one of the night's co-chairs. And now here we have Damson, the star of the new F1 movie with Brad Pitt, rolling up in an F1 car to an event sponsored by the sponsor of F1. That is some diabolical ad synergy at work here. That brings us to Sydney Sweeney in this custom Miu Miu dress that is playing extremely fast and loose with the night's tailoring theme. According to Sweeney, the dress was inspired by Kim Novak. Kim Novak, a white actress who was one of the biggest movie stars in the world in the 1950s and has absolutely nothing to do with this event. But of course, everything has to do with everything when it's one big commercial. Because you see, Sydney dressing up as Novak is actually her doing self-promotion for her upcoming movie Scandalous, in which she plays the actress. A film that also happens to be directed by Coleman Domingo, one of the co-hosts of the 2025 Gala. This ad shit runs deep, my friends. The last Met Gala mega ad I'd like to talk to you about is Gap Studio, which converted me from a heckler to a stan on Monday night. For those not up to date with the latest from the brand, creative director Zach Posen recently announced Gap Studio, their foray into higher-end red carpet apparel that will ultimately trickle down to the masses in a slightly cheaper form. While the results from that endeavor have been pretty underwhelming thus far, I thought this was a very compelling showing from Posen and Laura Harrier. I love the airy volume of the pants and sleeves juxtaposed against the fitted tailoring of the vest, and Laura knows exactly how to hold herself to show off the whole outfit to advantage. Please just remember when Zach tries to sell you this exact outfit 6 months from now that you are not Laura Harrier, and the chances that you're going to look like her in this garment are slim to none. I also assume this slinky gown featuring Alice Spring's 1989 photo of Andre Leon Talley that Harrier wore to the gala after parties is already in production because the public is absolutely clamoring for it. With the SponCon out of the way, let's now talk about my best dressed of the night. First, we have my list of honorable mentions. Fashion designer Willie Chavarria nailed it, just as I knew he would, in this pink zoot suit accessorized with crosses, extra long chains, and a fistful of roses, exactly as I've been requesting. Andrew Scott wore a Juliva heritage suit composed of precisely the type of unexpected yet pitch-perfect color combinations I wanted to see that night. The two-tone shoes and the boutonniere are also the perfect finishing touches. Bad Bunny's custom Prada looked great, although I feel he could have left the bejeweled gloves at home. Mostly I enjoyed this outfit because his bag reminded me of that period in the early aughts that Prada was making bowling bags a must-have luxury item. I'm ready for that Y2K revival to happen. I also love that Benito wore an updated version of the straw pava he's been wearing this whole album cycle, a traditional Puerto Rican hat. And that's the touch of personal cultural influence that we're looking for in a true dandy. I also love La Roche in custom Burberry and this bad blonde wig. It's so Fabio core. Law belongs on the cover of a romance novel in this getup. He's fopped so hard, he's now a Disney prince. In second place for the best dressed of the night were Cole Escola, Brian Tyree Henry, Jeremy O. Harris, and Guillaume Diop. Cole wore the most perfect custom Christopher John Rogers silk zoot suit with a wide baby pink lapel and a psychedelic floral print, finished off with a sleek black stiletto. I've been saying it for years now, but invite Cole to every red carpet you have. Also, when asked how Mary Todd Lincoln would behave if invited to that gala, Cole said
she'd be pissing everywhere. Sorry, can you say pissing on Vogue.com?
You can.
Okay.
You can.
Great, thank you.
just when I thought I couldn't love them anymore. Brian Tyree Henry attended in a custom orange culture Nigeria look that is exquisitely regal and luxurious. This is what Coleman Domingo's robe wishes it was, but we'll get to that in a moment. I also love that the actor finished off this ensemble with a knee-high boot, underscoring the way this outfit seamlessly merges historical and modern fashion elements. Jeremy O. Harris likewise killed it in custom Balmain. This is a true dandy, my friends. His poses clearly demonstrated that he deeply understood the assignment of gesture and wit. He also designed this incredible ring with jeweler Benjamin Hawkins for the evening, inspired by Fabergé eggs and caricatures of black dandies from the 19th century. And Guillaume Diop was another serious contender in this custom Valentino suit, which I think lays bare the themes of all of my best dressed nominees. A vividly patterned robe, unusually colorful suiting, lace details scattered throughout, and the froofiest tie money can buy. But for me, the hands down winner of the evening had to be Andre 3000. The musician designed this outfit in collaboration with Burberry, and the piano backpack was fabricated by Pink Sparrow. The piece is modeled after a Steinway Model S Baby Grand and made using foam, Luan plywood, and 3D printed elements, weighing a total of 30 pounds. To further tie in the piano element, Andre dropped a surprise album called 7 Piano Sketches on his way to the gala. But my favorite part of this look has to be the garbage bag in his hand, implying it could all go to shit at any minute, and he'll be left to clean it up. In terms of the best dressed women at the gala, I think that title easily belongs to Doechii and Lauryn Hill. This was both of their Met Gala debuts, and I thought it was a fantastic first showing. I love Doechii's penguin short suit silhouette with the mixed Louis Vuitton prints. It feels very Dapper Dan. The fro and the burgundy pussy bow tie were also beautiful choices. My only edit is I would have vastly preferred a sleek stiletto in the same burgundy color to this Mary Jane, just to make this whole thing feel a little more elevated and black tie caliber. It was also very amusing to me the way Louis Vuitton inflicted some sort of monogrammed handbag on every woman they dressed that night to ensure they were getting the most bang for their buck as the sponsors of this event. Doechii also wore an LV scarification prosthetic on her cheek, a profoundly symbolic beauty look that feels way above my pay grade to dissect. But I will say, I feel like the tension between honoring this African tradition and having the ability to freely express that culture, and Doechii being branded as the luxury object herself, is the same tension that's very much at the heart of this entire exhibit, especially as Doechii said that her look was inspired by Julius Soubise, one of the most famous black dandies in history and a slave to the Duchess of Queensberry, who likewise very much embodied that dichotomy. On a much lighter note, while her gala fit was great, my favorite look was the one she kicked off the festivities in, paying homage to Andre Leon Talley. It's just such a joyful fashion meme come to life, honoring a man who should have been dishing it out on those Met steps Monday night. As for Lauryn Hill, the most incredible thing to me about the 2025 Met Gala was not only that Anna Wintour somehow persuaded her to leave her house for this, but that she somehow convinced her to show up on time. Truly historical stuff. Lauryn wore a sculptural Cheney Chan Couture butter yellow suit with this dramatic stiff shoulder ruffle and long train, perfectly styled with a deep burgundy tie punctuated with a gold brooch, an afro, dark shades, and a bright blue Kelly bag, just to make sure you know this isn't a costume, she's really living that rich bitch lifestyle. The singer also arrived with her own parasol-toting assistant following her every step of the way, and you all know how I feel about a tiny umbrella. Gala. But most importantly, for anyone who's read Miller's book or listened to her talk about the Black Dandy, by bringing her own escort, I think Lauren touched on a really salient historical element of this subculture that, much like Dochi's scarified monogram, perfectly encapsulates the fraught nature of this figure. The origins of the Black Dandy begin in slavery, when it was trendy for white Europeans to dress up their slaves in the finest clothing and have them do no labor as a symbol of their own immense wealth. Soubise, who I mentioned Dochi modeled her outfit after, was known to often walk around with his own white servants in tow waiting on him hand and foot, subverting the typical class and race hierarchies of the period. While Lauren's footman isn't white, I think it still underscores the same tension inherent in this mode of dress that is rooted in oppression and a racist prank, yet evolved into this powerful form of Black sartorial expression. I also had a couple of favorite beauty looks from the gala that had nothing to do with the night's theme, but were pretty fun. At first, I was disappointed that Lana Del Rey didn't bring her new Bayou husband as her date to the gala, but she did bring him along with her in spirit, wearing a gold alligator barrette in her hair. Unfortunately, the rest of her custom Valentino outfit felt very funereal, making it seem as though she was mourning the passing of her airboat captain rather than celebrating their recent betrothal. And Nicole Kidman took the opportunity to debut a brand new bitchy little bob, or at least a brand new bitchy little bob wig. And I have to say, this is the look. This is how I need Nicole to style her hair every single day moving forward. I think this looks so cool and modern on her. Forget those long, soft auburn curls. I want a short, sleek, two-tone ducktail from here on out. Similarly to Lana, Nicole's Balenciaga haute couture dress was completely forgettable sepulchral garb. But who cares when you're debuting this whole new follicle era? Unfortunately, that era has already come to a close as Nicole went right back to a different straight waist-length wig at the ACM Awards a few days later. Now let's discuss the four hosts of this year's gala, starting with Coleman Domingo. I had the highest of hopes for one of my favorite fashion plates, but things got off to a rocky start when he entered in this Valentino cloak. It's supposed to be an homage to one of Andre Leon Talley's iconic Met Gala looks, and while I'm touched by the sentiment, I think you can see there's a big difference between these two garments. Andre's blue opera coat exudes an air of royalty, similar to what we saw Brian Tyree Henry wearing earlier. The quality of that fabric alone speaks volumes, whereas Coleman's papal shroud looks like it's made out of a jersey material, and these sequin shoulder pads seem intended to evoke the same monarch sensibility as ALT, but instead come across as more like a costume from a high school theater production. Now that said, once Coleman ditched the tarp, I thought the suit underneath looked great. This is the type of subtle pattern mixing I wanted to see a lot more of on this red carpet. In terms of Pharrell Williams' outfit, I have now run through the full gamut of emotions on it, and have finally come out on the side of love. Once I read the literature on this attire and realized the double-breasted blazer is made entirely out of tiny seed pearls, I was immediately on board. But while the concept is very good, and I'm sure looked extremely cool in person, the problem is that it didn't really photograph as anything at all. When I first saw it, I thought it was corduroy, and then embroidery. And because of that, I think this moment also felt very underwhelming for viewers watching at home, especially considering this is the man at the head of the brand sponsoring the night's festivities. As for Lewis Hamilton, he looked the best he's ever looked in his life. The F1 driver's street style often leans too hypebeast and flashy for my taste, but I thought this look showed incredible restraint and sophistication. This is a custom Wales Bonner suit and it shows. Everything about it is so subtle and gorgeous, and I love the cowrie shell detailing. A$AP Rocky wore his own AWGE designs, and I have to admit, it's not that bad. This is no La Maison Drew Met Gala debut. It was also at precisely this moment that I remembered that Rocky is now the creative director of Ray-Ban, which also helped explain why I kept seeing celebrities rush to throw on Wayfarers when getting their photo taken all night. Given all the layering in this outfit, I wish Rocky had played more with color and pattern, as I think that would have really helped make the details of his designs pop. But I did love the choice to carry a cane that is also an umbrella that is also a shotgun. It feels like a cheeky wink at the firearm case he just beat. There were a lot of canes on this red carpet, but not a lot of canes that transformed into something else, which just feels like further confirmation that A$AP is a true modern dandy. And of course, the real reason most regular people watch the Met Gala is Rihanna, and as always, she did not disappoint. I also love that she did her own kind of counter-programming to the evening by not announcing her third pregnancy at the gala, but rather by just walking around NYC in a full Miu Miu look beforehand. I would also absolutely love to know how much the brand paid for that impromptu paparazzi moment. As for her gala look, this is custom Marc Jacobs, and I think it's good, but it could have been a little bit better. I like the construction of everything, I like the mixed polka dot accessories, but I'm not quite as sure about the skirt made out of a deconstructed overcoat with a sleeve dangling off the butt. I also would have loved a different choice in hat. Maybe something a little more sharp, a little more structured, a different color even. The only thing I'm sure about is it needed a big, dramatic feather. But while I may have had notes on her gala attire, the custom and Dummelmeister after-party look was perfection. Classicry. Fellow Met Gala goat Zendaya also fully delivered in a custom Louis Vuitton suit that was an homage to Bianca Jagger and Diana Ross in mahogany. And all I really have to say about that is, isn't it so nice to have at least one celebrity in your life who you can always rely on to do it exactly right? And it wasn't just what Zendaya was wearing, but how she was wearing it, posing with the gesture and wit that's so important to this subculture. As for Shogun's Anna Sawai arriving in a similar outfit to Zendaya's, I think it's a non-controversy. If anything, it feels like it just highlighted the fact that it's been so long since two famous people genuinely showed up to the same event wearing the exact same thing that the public is just clamoring for a who wore it better moment. After all, Zendaya's is custom Louis Vuitton and Sawai's is custom Dior, and the details of each are actually quite different. They just both happen to be white suits. Cardi B was another guest who many viewers didn't get to see because, much like Rihanna, she arrived after Vogue abruptly cut their live stream at 8:45 p.m. as guests were still walking the red carpet. But I really loved her custom Burberry look. I think the rapper has consistently, quietly turned it out every single year she's been invited to this event, even though I'm still mad at her for not wearing those Alexis Stone age prosthetics to last year's gala. This green velvet brocade against the lace ruffles is so luxe and so Prince, and I think the asymmetrical hair finishes it off perfectly. I also saw this Instagram reel of the making of these incredible boots she's wearing under these flares, made by a local NYC cobbler, which fully sold me on the disco dandy vision. Now let's touch down for a moment on some of my personal goats of this event, starting with the Norwegian salmonair Gustav Magnar Witzøe, who stole my heart last year in a crystal-encrusted body stocking complete with trompe-l'oeil abs. You should all know by now just how much I love a rich person who loves to spend their riches foolishly. While this year's ensemble wasn't quite as good as last, I mean, how do you follow up on a masterpiece like that? This one was passable, if a touch forgettable, even with the lucite briefcase full of rose petals, which again, given my passion for bouquets as red carpet accessories, I obviously love. If there's one thing about Gustav, he stays ready to recreate an American Beauty moment on the fly. And to his credit, this is also the fanciest tie knot I've ever seen knotted in my life. As for my personal Met Gala queen, Hunter Schafer, she flawlessly executed her outfits both at the gala and the pre-gala parties. For the Met, she wore a custom Prada suit, and I think every single detail of it is perfectly dapper, from the white leather beret down to the way she's holding those gloves. It's so understated yet beautifully executed, and there's that dandified gesture again we spoke about earlier. At a party over the weekend, she also wore this undercover fall 2025 dress covered in clusters of iridescent buttons and three-dimensional angel wings coming off the back, also encrusted in buttons. It's unexpected, cool, yet somehow still totally hits all the criteria. An apt description for much of Hunter and her stylist Dara's work together. Now, Shakira and Maya Hawke in these two pink dresses make me genuinely wonder if these gals knew where they were that night, because both are really testing the outer limits of the event's theme. I mean, I guess you could argue that both are technically garments measured to fit their bodies, but seems like a pretty big stretch. Shakira's Prabal Gurung gown features those curve highlighting cutout mesh panels that I always feel like immediately make a dress look very cheap and dated. And the addition of these wrist-length sheer polka dot gloves do absolutely nothing to negate that impression. And I actually think Maya Hawke's custom Prada look is really beautiful, if only it were being worn to literally any black tie event other than this one. Now, while these women's street style may rule Pinterest with an iron fist, I found our current crop of quiet luxury celebrities to be by far the most disappointing dressers of the night. I will say, I think quiet luxury progenitor Sophia Richie came out looking the best of the bunch that evening. Although I find her gown to be deeply dull, it is beautifully tailored and the bows across the back do add a certain something. Whereas Hailey's Aritzia-ass outfit pissed me off so badly, if I was Anna Wintour, I would permanently uninvite her from the gala for this behavior. We have all seen Hailey wear 100 versions of this exact tuxedo dress from Saint Laurent. Where is the flavor? Where is the twist? Where is the flamboyance that makes this different and worthy of being seen at the biggest fashion event of the year? And don't even get me started on this tired choice in Pleaser Mule. That sentiment only goes double for Hailey's after-party dress, a Delaria Findicolu champagne velvet corseted number that equally has been done to death already. And Kendall Jenner was not much better. To be fair, her blazer by British designer Toysheju Dumi had some ruching about the shoulders that I thought was very pretty. However, that's the only thing going on here that's worth any mention. This is supposed to be an event all about personality, and the only thing these outfits have demonstrated to me is that these ladies don't have an ounce of it to give. Dandy implies embellishment of some kind, or at least wit. These outfits possess none. I think part of the problem is also that I can feel all these ladies angling to be Gen Z's new Audrey Hepburn, and the aesthetic doesn't ring true to me. It feels like they've taken a complete lack of personal style and perspective on fashion and successfully sold it back to the masses as the platonic ideal of chic. But it wasn't just Kendall. None of the Kardashian Jenners fared particularly well that evening, and honestly, I think they all would have been much better off skipping the event entirely, as the theme was far outside of their comfort zone and levels of racial sensitivity. Now with Kylie, I don't know what the hell is going on here. I feel like every year she cracks under the pressure of the Met Gala, because I never have any real issue with her event outfits until she sets foot on this red carpet. Even so, I thought this year's look was particularly bad, which is extra weird considering it was by Ferragamo, who designed a bunch of other great looks that night. Kylie arrived on the carpet wearing this long black Victorian morning sash and brooch for some reason, which she quickly discarded to reveal the full dimensions of this herringbone tweed halter dress with a mesh corset middle, which she accessorized with the most played out accessory of the season, opera gloves. The craziest part about all of this to me though, is that just a couple of days later, she and her boyfriend Timothée Chalamet made their red carpet couple debut at an awards ceremony in Rome, where she wore a custom Schiaparelli dress that would have been perfectly, forgettably on theme for this event. Where was that energy for the Met? As for Kim, I don't know, man. She recently hired Rihanna's stylist Jaleel Weaver, and I don't know that even he can save her from herself at this point. Because it's not even that this custom chrome hearts gown is totally bad per se. It's just that for a woman who built her entire brand of fame on fashion, shock, and awe, her outfits have become so excruciatingly one note. I mean, this is basically the exact same custom chrome hearts dress I've seen her wear various iterations of for years now on the red carpet, just with a couple of strands of pearls tacked onto the booty. Kim's leather fedora is somehow both the best and worst part of the whole outfit. It is on theme, and it does have a certain smooth criminal swag to it, but there's also something so deeply cringe about this choice in headgear. There was a viral tweet comparing her look to one of Countess Luann's cabaret getups, and I think that really gets to the core of the problem here. Besides, in my opinion, our 21st century Magda Goebbels doesn't just need a new stylist for her MAGA era, but a completely new vision of how she should be presenting herself to the world. And I would argue that vision should involve a lot less clothing that looks like it's slowly squeezing the life out of her. I was actually quite surprised by just how many pantsless women there were at this black tie event dedicated to suits and tailoring. And as I came to find out, Pharrell Williams is entirely to blame for that phenomenon. Sabrina Carpenter was one such half-clothed attendee in this burgundy brown bodysuit and cropped blazer designed by Louis Vuitton. She looks like a circus ringmaster crossed with an employee of the Playboy Club and a 70s flight attendant. And I feel like everything about this couldn't be more wrong for her. According to Sabrina, Pharrell told her she had to go to the gala pantsless because of how short she is, and that by showing all this leg, it would help elongate her. As anyone who has listened to my rant about pleaser platforms probably could guess, actual steam was coming out of my ears when I read this quote. I've always been dubious about Pharrell's design credentials, and I feel like this statement just proves that he doesn't know anything about design or proportions, because all he's actually achieved here is to somehow make Sabrina look even shorter than she already is. Well, that and making her head look freakishly large for her body thanks to this weird double neckline. But at least we're finally really starting to hone in on the truth behind all these monster platform shoes. Hollywood is just as heightist as the runways, sure, but the reality is also that none of these creative directors seem to know how to dress any body type that isn't a 5'11" size 0 supermodel. And so instead of figuring out how, they're all just trying to fake those proportions on these tiny women. And it's not working. Please, just let them be petite. But I say free my girl Sabrina, not just for these bad fashions, but also because, as always, her hair and makeup is somehow even worse than what she's wearing. It's genuinely baffling to me how this is happening to someone as famous as she is, especially someone with a global Redken contract and this many extensions fused onto her head. Could someone at Redken at least overnight a deep conditioning mask to her stylist? Another big look at the gala was top hats. Naturally. Although, interestingly, I noticed that they became increasingly invisible over the course of the night. I thought Tessa Thompson's Prabal Gurung look with the panier skirt suit and ruffled sleeve was perfect, especially with the Andre Leon Talley homage paddle fan. I was also surprised not to see a lot more of this type of tiny top hat on Monday night, as it seems like an easy way to add a little gentlemanly elegance to any gown. I appreciated how dangerously askance Jodie Turner-Smith wore her headgear, and theater producer Jordan Roth's multi-layered mesh stack of Stephen Jones millinery top hat hats is worthy of a much closer examination. Mary J. Blige took her coxcomb behavior to the next level in merely the concept of a wide-brimmed fedora, and Jaden Smith, forever attempting to be the edgiest in the room, arrived in some sort of wired headpiece that covered his face and looked like he had just gotten into a fight with Mary's invisible chapeau. The last trend I noticed that I wanted to share with you today is that for some reason a wide array of women pretended to be smokers on Monday night. A choice that I find as odd as Madonna's decision to honk her own boob mid-red carpet. My friend Lauren aptly compared all these unlit tobacco products accessorizing their outfits to a garnish you can't eat. I assume this was meant as a nod to the Harlem Renaissance in the Roaring '20s, but I do think it's a bit of a Chekhov's gun situation. It's the law of theatrics that you must light it and at least pretend to puff before the end of the night. Sorry, those are the rules. My main issue with this psych gag, though, is that it's a squandered opportunity to do something modern, tongue-in-cheek, and subversive with it, which would have been actual dandy behavior. At the very least, how did no one think to swap out one of these cigarettes with a joint? A vape, even. Personally, I think a nibbled upon carrot would have added a real what's up doc panache to the whole affair. In a very surreal moment of terrifying historical synchronicity, Dior chose this red carpet to bring back its iconic new look silhouette. Right on time politically, given everything I've talked to you about in these videos regarding the build-a-body trend. If you need a little refresher, the new look was designed by Christian Dior in 1947. It was incredibly controversial at the time as its excessive usage of fabric flew in the face of the fabric rations and austerity measures that defined World War II dressing. It was also an attempt to return women to these exaggerated feminine silhouettes after a war during which most women entered the workforce and became the heads of their households for the very first time. The new look represented an attempt to reinforce both class and gender roles from a bygone era. Sound familiar to anyone? At least Dior didn't do Monica Barbaro dirty for once, as this fits her beautifully, even if it might be symbolically a little more dubious. And while Kerry Washington's look is by Sim Kai, not Dior, I think that silhouette is pretty undeniable. And finally, I just want to give a quick shout out to Halle Berry for putting the final nail in Nudity's coffin at this year's Met Gala. The actor wore a custom Laquan Smith gown with black sequin and sheer mesh stripes that left a whole lot of outer pelvic region fully exposed. Now, as a full-fledged millennial, I remember when Halle Berry wearing an Elie Saab gown with a sheer top and her breasts completely covered at the 2002 Oscars was enough to cause a global meltdown. So imagine my surprise upon discovering that this same woman is now wearing something that barely keeps her labia contained, and it hasn't caused so much as a ripple in the digital realm. I love seeing how 20 years of increasingly provocative red carpet fashions has changed us as an audience. Okay, and with that, we have now officially recapped the 2025 Met Gala. I hope you've enjoyed this rundown of A-list takes on the night's Black Dandy theme. In the future, this type of red carpet breakdown will be for members only, so if you haven't signed up for a membership yet, make sure to jump on that. I also have some fun content planned related to Drag Race, fashion designer deep dives, and more. As always, if you enjoyed my little tirade here today, make sure to like, subscribe, and convert a friend to our cult of bad fashion. If you crave an endless stream of this slop in your inbox, you can always sign up for my weekly Substack newsletter at iheartmess.com. The link will be in the caption below. I'll see you all again real soon with some more mess from the month of April. Until then, bye.